Cocofanto elefanto. Trigoligre frutonni. Los no my hotspotcitos. Tucanno bananno. La grande combinazione.
Continuing to try and get some builds. Shots getting taken, but nothing big connecting yet. The aggression is there, but the cube rifle is breaking. Your teammates' builds. Bodasai now regrouped up above. One player in the sky, it's Pablo. He's already lost his duo as they continue to talk about boards.
Now obviously our friend new land, Bodasai Sato, they're looking to try and set up here for the win, but Cammy, Hadi, what more could they possibly do from this position? Running incredibly low on materials. Kiro entirely out of builds. Just praying that the team on height doesn't notice his current position, but no, brought down by Hardy in the mid-round. Just caught him so off guard there. The Sky, Scroll, lurking underneath, trying to see where they could try and third party. Darm has been brought down by Faded and Kashi, but first off, Scroll and Sky still continuing their reign. Kimmy and Hadi doing what they can to try and build up some refreshes, but 4 eliminations already, that's a decent amount of points.
Big match is what they needed to push themselves up into that top 3. Sky Jump Momsy, little bit of a hiccup, but they're back in zone now. 19 HP is all that's left for Sky Jump. He does have shield. The issue is he's only got 1 build. High ground team can see him as well, and they are gonna execute on that decision. Cube rifle comes down. Momsy left alone. Bodasai Sato now playing aggressive.
Hey, Bodasai trying to see what else he can collect, wanting to get the materials refreshed, but that gets cut short. Still holding down the high ground, still has that cube rifle in tow, looking back to make sure that they don't get caught off guard by anybody else. Not sure if he caught a glimpse of Cammy just yet, but Sky, Scroll, they're going to be the ones absorbing all this focus from the cube rifle. It's just so difficult to try and maintain anything in this low ground tier as Cammy now trying to see whether or not he can actually hold on. Lost all of his build at just a moment's notice here. Trying to see if he can bring down Pablo in the thick of it, but no, Scroll, Sky, they're going to be the ones now try and take out Bodasai, punish this duo that's been slamming the lobby all game long with that cube rifle. Sky, incredibly healthy, finds the first one. That's the opener onto Bodasai, going right back up with that overdrive grenade. Only a singular player, and it's Pablo. The Danes trying to pull through here yet again, and Sky, Scroll in very familiar fashion with another victory royale. This time it's their first, though, in Reload.
This is why Sky and Scroll are one of the most hyped duos for the upcoming Major 1 Summit. They can play as a duo. The chemistry's there, but they can play just as well as solos when they need to get the job done. Big pickup for Sky and Scroll, launching themselves up that leaderboard desk. How are we feeling?
I think we're feeling really good after seeing our teams up the ante in game number 3. And Sky and Scroll, Mini Minor, they were one of the duos who decided, yeah, you know what? We're happy to fight early on in the game.
Yeah, they were, and they were just so aggressive at the beginning of that game. Takar was talking about on commentary, he was scared for Sky and Scroll as well, for how dominant they were in those fights. They, I think, backed off at a good time as well. They didn't try and get over-aggressive, which of course made them get into that end game. And it's actually nice to see them play out that end game properly. We saw a little bit of it in game number 1, and then they had some really unfortunate zones. So to see them there in that end game showing what they can do best is really nice to see, Race.
Yeah, I think this shows a lot about their fragging capabilities. Of course, you know, we saw them be really aggressive, as you said, in the early mid-game, but they were fragging in the end game as well. Every single time I felt like we looked at POV from one of these two, I just saw like 2 builds, 1 build, 0 build. You know, you just naturally think, oh, this is over for these guys, surely. And what, 30 seconds later, you come back to them, another Elim, and then another Elim.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then they go, of course, and win the game. And it's just so difficult to do that. It can't be understated how difficult it can be to turn around a game. And I don't think there's a better team right now than Sky and Scroll at doing that, because they have that cohesion, they have that togetherness that we've spoken about so much this season. To have the understanding of where your teammate is, they're the best team at that. And it just allows them to have this ability to find refreshes, to understand what they need to do in each given moment. It's so effective, especially in reload.
Yeah, actually, when you think back to the qualifiers for this final as well, the fact that Scroll had 42 eliminations, Sky had the most amount of builds placed and was still in the top 5 with 25 eliminations in terms of the elimination numbers. This duo can do it any which way, and I can't wait to see if they continue to be aggressive after the break.
Teammate time is back. Push now. Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting out Fabia. 3v1.
3 games down, 5 more to go, and that last game was incredible entertainment. Let's bring up the leaderboard and see where we're at, because we've got to talk about Pablo Chino first of all. Resub, the fact that Pablo was a solo from the 9th zone and he managed to clutch second, absolutely ridiculous.
Unbelievable solo clutch. He 1v2'd Akiro and Podesai in the midst of that when he had almost no builds, no HP, hit nothing but max bangs, stayed in the storm, and got 65 points by himself throughout the entire moving zones. My Duo Destiny Jesus tells me this guy's a top 3 solo clutcher of all time. We keep memeing about it, but he might actually just be the truth.
The time will tell. Chapter 7 could be his to prove once and for all that he is that guy. Let's talk about Sato and Podesai, though. We never missed an opportunity to talk about French duos, and here we are. They've given us an excuse. They've been challenging consistently for the high ground mini miner, and they've been looking pretty good at it.
Yeah, this is a sort of high ground plays with the cube rifle that we were sort of expecting going into the day. I think we haven't really seen too much of that today. It's been a lot of sort of TAC ARs. There's been teams that haven't had the cube rifle up on height, but this has sort of been, I suppose, that more standard height take and hold that we were expecting from these guys. Nice performance from them as well. Of course, they need that qualification. They need to find themselves in the top 3 at the end of the day, Reese. So really nice to see these guys actually finding success on height. We actually have to talk about a cube rifle here, I think, because we didn't do it in the last in between games. So yeah, good for these guys, and of course using that cube rifle really well.
Definitely.
Also,
Go for it.
Go. No, please do. Please
okay.
talk about the cube rifle.
I was just going to say quickly. No, I was going to pass it and say that Sato is not carried by the cube rifle by any means. He has already come 4th in the first qualifier, right? So he missed out by 1 single point already. So him climbing back up the leaderboards here into the qualification slot is incredibly important.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so sorry to jump over you there. But you know what? I love an opportunity to talk about Cammy as well. What a legend. The fact that he has got it down to the wire in 2 endgames back to back now, and just outside that qualification zone. Breeze, if he can keep this up, he might be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, my worry with these guys is that they just don't really frag out that much in a game mode that heavily relies on fighting, every single match.
Yeah, and in this endgame, they got a few of these gifts. You can see a couple of bodies that were actually next to their draw or next to their box. They were able to just pick up on and get a lot of those materials, so that would have helped them out as well. They also, of course, have that cube rifle, which is super important. But nice to see these guys, of course, finding themselves in a good position on the leaderboard. And of course, we want to see Cammy on the LAN. He's a LAN goat. He's a LAN beast. So he's the sort of player we want to be seeing there as well.
Now, cube rifle wise, we are slightly trending upwards, Reese, right? We had 2 in game 1, 3 in game 2, 4 in game 3, and then
correct.
maybe we'll have 5 in game. Did I do the maths right?
It does seem like a linear increase. Every game I've been keeping track, it's going up 1 a match. So 5 next game, yes.
Okay, Reese, if you can continue the graph, we're going to head into game number 4 with Taco and Takata.
Surely it'll go down eventually, right? Right?
Surely.
I mean, surely, right? Anyways, look, Sky Scroll, now with that win, have put themselves into top 3, so it is top 4 that will qualify you, and I believe Chino Pablo are right outside that in 5th, so if they're able to squeeze in to that top 4, then it could even be a top 5 to qualify for these other players. A lot of big names still out of that qualifying range, though, Taco.
Yeah, but what I'm really trying to keep an eye out for is Kashi and Fiat, and I think that these guys have really taken these first 3 lobbies by storm already. I mean, we'll get more into it because Game 4 is already ready to go.
Good news is we don't have to wait long to see how that fight unfolds. If it's based on how the previous matches have went, it's Clapsy and Kjeld who have been contesting them up at that northwest side of the map. And it looks like, based on the mini-map, it's happening once again.
Yeah, but the real issue starts to build up now, where you've got a team that is very clearly leading in first place, and they might have just gone down in the elimination feed. They've been getting contested so consistently. But Takata, when you were sitting in that first place position, 162 points, granted, Sky and Scroll are the ones that were trailing just behind at 160, I believe. But the damage that's been done is just knowing that they could potentially be pushed down. Still, they have done an excellent job leading into this, but Kjeld, Clapsy, this is the one time that you don't want to see that duo succeed, but they've done it.
They've done it. I mean, Kashi Furin are the most consistent team today, average placement of 4. And I mean, they got 5th, 4th, 3rd. They've just gone down off spawn. to the team contesting them that's at the bottom of the leaderboard. It's from top to bottom battle, and it did not go Kashi and Freeren's way this time. So, I mean, hopefully, I'm hoping Clapsy and Keeled can kind of make use of that.
But what I was really trying to get at, though, right before this match had even started, Takata, is yes, they've done an excellent job. I think they've really been a team that went a little bit more under the radar. They had solid performance in their heats, but one or two more lobbies of being eliminated off spawn, that is very realistically, or makes it a lot more realistic for other teams to then leapfrog you on that leaderboard position. Even with Sky Squirrel, Pablo Chino, like, just assume that they're going to be in the top 3. Just assume that you have those rollover positions. It is still very much feasible for these other teams to play catch up, especially when you are not netting any points off spawn.
A lot of games to go. After this, we'll be halfway through, but the games have been picking up the pace a little bit. It was very slow to kick things off. Basically, every duo was up once we got to those final moving zones. And then after the last match, there's just been more aggression. Beamish Storm, one of the duos that have been incredibly confident with how they've been playing.
And part of that is definitely credited towards the fact that, you know, teams just become a lot more familiarized after those first couple of lobbies, what to anticipate, who's going to be rotating nearby. But things start to get much more unpredictable later on. As Thomas focus, their only options are to try and find high elimination games with solid endgame performances. And we have just yet to see them actually net themselves any real placement points, because they keep going out right before it takes over. So everything has just been built off of their elims so far today, and they've had a really rough go of things. And that's why we see them trying now take out some leftovers by Sengild and Grefsgard. Supply drop going to be intercepted here as Thomas, he just wants the elimination onto Sengild. He knows just how incredibly hurt this player is, and they'll find the first one, but Grefsgard not looking to go down without a fight. Be forced to retreat here. Doesn't want to be another duo eliminated so quickly before placement takes over.
Focus Thomas, I mean, they've been consistently getting eliminations in the early games. They've been getting to the late games with 2-3 eliminations, but they've just, at that point, maybe had a hiccup. They've ran low on mats. Their loadout has been reset, and they're just not kitted enough to actually play out a solid end game. So even if they're able to play aggressive, they need to do much more to just get those early game eliminations.
All right, now Sengild's going through it. Other duos starting to take him out of the sky. Fincheck finds his elimination onto Seti. That's going to be the first for him in Cantry. And now, a little bit more isolated, away from the rest of the map. But this is also definitely the part where you start to expect teams to kind of dabble more into that one person breaks off from your duo typical drop, and they try to see if they can pick up a quick elimination off spawn. Worst case scenario, they go back to where your partner is at.
Yeah, and you can see that it's a common trend. I mean, it's gone from 5 to 10 to 15 respawns in these matches, so there's definitely more action happening as we get through the games here. And Focus Thomas, they're showing exactly that.
Sadly, I think Sengild's already on his 4th reboot. Focus looking to try and make Sky enter his first year success. Focus is not playing around. You can tell just how aggressive Focus and Thomas are actually approaching this 4th lobby. Takata, they recognize the fact this is a halfway point, sure, but they're going to need some big games to make up for all that lost time.
That they are. They're getting it. 3 on the board. Aggression continuing through, but there is a team launching meteors at them with the cube rifle from the opposite side of the ridge, so they do have to be careful. But Seti, he's just been rebooted back in. Not a lot to work with as he does go down here. That's 4th elimination for Focus. He is locked in.
Poor Fincheck. I think he might be next. Focus is just playing like an absolute demon right now in these lobbies. He's been having to deal with evil Fortnite today, and now he's gonna try and be the real villain of this lobby, just looking to find whatever eliminations he can. Fincheck scrambling away praying that other duos start trying to throw some shots this direction to try and alleviate some of that pressure. Slapperoni Pizza will help Cantry at least replenish some of his shields, but the loadout is still going to be very underwhelming compared to where you would want it to sit at, leading into these mid-game awkward positions, awkward rotations.
Kemihari taking the much safer route. Want to give it as many hard mats as possible, that middle, that brick, and be fully set up for the late game. They're not interested in playing aggressive. They're in 6th place, potentially 1 placement off being in qualifying range. That's all they want to do is have a healthy loadout, good amount of mats, and be ready to play out this end game.
Just feels so odd now, seeing a team that's not dealing with the constant action after what we just witnessed from Focus and Thomas, and getting right back to it, though. Cantry and Finchek just could not escape. Even with that Slapperoni Pizza, their shields are still practically gone. 2 duos already eliminated. Focus and Thomas trying to make it a third if they're able to find Finchek here, and Finchek doing what he can to try and escape. He knows he needs to just stay alive long enough for Cantry to reboot, but Focus and Thomas just hot on his heels. They refuse to budge. Every single elimination trying to make up the difference.
Focus is so dialed in right now. Taking a bit too much time though, so it looks like the knock will come through, not the full elimination. Country has got rebooted back in, but honestly, I think that's almost kind of what he wants with the amount of aggression we're seeing here. He said, give me more eliminations. I'm ready to keep farming.
It's crazy to think, though, that the way that Focus and Thomas have just been steamrolling through duos in this early game, it didn't look like they were trying to play to allow for Finchek or Cantry to reboot. It looked like they just wanted the clean finish, take that duo out entirely. But fact of the matter is, they've already got 18 points in this lobby alone, just off the elimination spree that they've embarked on. All they really need now, Takata, is just to get some solid placement in the end game.
They gotta win a match. They gotta win a match or be incredibly consistent in all the next matches. But it's looking good so far. They're kicking it off strong. We'll see if they can keep that momentum going. Darmdemish taking the slower route. They're where they want to be, and no need to take any unnecessary risks.
Prepares ensure for another one of those duos, though. That's trying to hunt for a little bit more placement, a little bit more positioning in the leaderboard. They're still within striking range, so they know. Got to just play a little bit more passive. Want to make sure that you really avoid the brunt of some of these teams that are getting very, very fraggy, very, very active. And you can already see off in the distance, Thomas Focus, as they start to make their approach. Some of these teams on the outskirts, they might become victims, but Gino, Pablo, a little bit more of a scenic route for these two.
Shout out to Pablo, by the way. I mean, Gino got eliminated with 15 teams alive in the last match, and Pablo still ended 2nd place. From 15 teams to getting to 2nd as a solo is incredibly impressive. So we'll see with both players up if they can make something happen now.
Crazier part to consider from that last lobby was just his 1v2 presence in that endgame to put himself into that 2nd place position. Pablo and Chino as a duo, we already know that they have a lot of strength behind them, but the fact when you can deliver on an individual side of things too, that's always a scary sight. But Podesai and Sato might be a bit of a different approach here. Not seeing that cube rifle in their loadouts just yet, but things could always change as the match continues to develop. Sure enough, Sato, Podesai, if they want to play for the high ground, they'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Be a little bit more difficult to try and lock down teams, but surprising to see Country and Finchek still kicking despite everything in that early game. But it's hard to expect a solid in-game performance here, Takata, when you have just been sent through the reboot gulag, essentially.
Focus sniffed him out again, too. Took the shots in Country as he was gliding in. I mean, they had to play Storm as long as possible. They had to try and recuperate as much loot, mats, heals as they possibly could. So Who knows how much they've actually recovered. Good news is at least they're in zone.
Sky Jump a little bit split off here. You can already tell the lobby definitely sending shots his direction. Shield's getting chunked along the way. For Cringe and Twy, next zone pool is going to be the determining factor here. Teams start to make their way forward. Don't want to get caught behind the rest of the pack here. That 1 second too late could be the difference maker because Focus Thomas, they're behind everybody else for the time being, but they're looking right at Noah Riley and Reason. Not going to get over-aggressive just yet, but hey, you keep sending shots out every direction. Eventually, the rest of the lobby might start to look your way, and it seems like that's an invitation that Thomas and Focus have openly extended.
Prepares shirt. 90 on the board currently. Getting closer and closer to that qualifying range. They cannot afford to go down here. The Storm and Divish now are going to get ahead, elevating themselves into a great position. Currently the most elevated in the lobby as they connect to the helipad, and now can have an opportunity to look back and try and get a bit of damage.
Still aware of the fact, though, that they might not have total height control just yet. No team's really looking to take a stab at it. We're going to wait probably until 8th zone appearance, but if anybody goes down now, that's going to mean an individual playstyle from here on out, Dakota. Reboots have been disabled in this 7th zone. Sky, Scroll, a little bit low on their material count, but they could change that at a moment's notice. They've got one elimination. Doubt that they would hate to see another, but they have technically overtaken Kashi and Firen now by just a singular point, but that might be best case scenario for a team like Kashi and Firen, knowing that it's an EWC land qual team ahead of you.
That's true, that's true. And they're set up to have a pretty good game here again, alongside the other EWC qual team, which is Pablo Chino. As the zone starts moving, now they're just gonna kind of wait it out and do more of a slow rotate when the zone gets closer to them. Swizzy Pixie, on the other hand, are quite stuck in the snow down below, but for Sky and Scroll, incredible rotate to front side here.
Really done a perfect job of positioning themselves in that mid-ground section too, so they'll be able to look down. Akira punished, tried to go towards that frontside low, and Akira Kurama have been taken out of this lobby. Sky and Scroll now looking towards Focus, but Focus, he's been seeing red all game long here, Takata. But right now, he wants that eagle-eye view up above everybody else in this lobby now.
There's so many.
Getting a good read on the duos that are trying to fly overhead. Country, and you can see some of the loot dropping with it. Teams for making those attempts towards the high ground, and Sato from a distance gonna be in country. This is a very difficult spot now to be in, though. Lobby's starting to look inwards, but Sato and Pokeside, I think, just close their walls, no problem whatsoever.
Reason gets knocked down. Look, if I'm a player that's in the sky gliding, the last duo I would want on height is Thomas HD and Focus. We know how confident these players are, especially with their AR aim. Swizzy Pixie now, one of the other duos gliding above, continuing to not only keep an eye up top, but also apply that pressure to the teams below. They don't want anyone trying to overtake them.
Hey, they can't see all of us, right? That might be the mentality, but Pablo Chino, unfortunately not going to be able to go as high up as they were hoping for initially there. Still, that might actually be a bit of a saving grace because Focus and Thomas, they have been on point so far. Taking out team shields, making them drop to that ultimate low ground. It's just so disrupting because these teams are just being forced to kind of glide into each other on these lower layers, and the congestion is starting to build so rapidly.
Good news for Repair Shores as they are up ahead. Bad news as they're low on HP and running even lower on mats. As Darm, Themish, looks like Cammy is knocked right by them. Not sure if they were the ones that picked it up, but they are going to do what they can to keep on going. They have more than enough materials to play with. They don't have to take any risks just yet as they're continuing to play frontside.
Darm can even afford to tank up some of those ticks of Storm with those slurp juices, but Sato, Podesai, a little bit more fixated on dealing with Darm and Demus in the first place. Shot, but Repairs underneath, eliminated. That's another clean wipeout. Swizzy, Pixie, pick up those last couple of pizza slices. Swizzy scoping out the layer just above them. They want to go upwards, but I don't know if their trajectory is going to be all that clean cut.
Oh, look, not a single elimination yet this match, but they're still looking healthy. I might have spoken too soon, though. It's Sky Scroll knocking on your door. You have to be careful, as Pablo's been fully cracked now. Drop to just 43 HP, forced to do what he can to get out of this chaotic situation. But Focus and Thomas, they kicked off this match with only 12 points. Now, continuing to hold high, but they have to be careful.
Saw the only thing that you needed to see. It's that cube rifle presence, but who's got it? Who's going to be the team actually trying to force Thomas and Focus down? Sky Scroll already on ultimate low. Pixie, Swizzy, they were definitely hurt, but they might be able to actually maintain hype. No, instead... Well, actually, no, it is Swizzy. Swizzy's the one with the cube rifle. He's the one that's causing so much disruption here, as now Thomas and Focus are left to try and scramble a bit, but look at Swizzy. He's just so incredibly injured, very low on the material count. They've got to get down, but they know they've got Thomas overhead. He's looking to see if he can get a clean up crew action on the high ground, but Pablo and Chino, they're just finding the eliminations underneath.
Pablo not going to be able to do it this time around. Chino now is going to have to take over from Pablo solo clutching it in the last game. Will Chino be able to live up to the expectations? No, he goes down as well. Sky Scroll now doing what they can to heal, but this is exactly what Thomas HD and Focus needed. From 12 points to already 84, and they're not even finished yet. This win could mean everything for them.
They've still got their work cut out for them, even with Scroll trying to play for placements off of that med kit. He's going to have to get involved in this action soon enough, but Darm Deemish looking relatively healthy on that low ground. Focus, though, with the siphon coming in at the last second onto Sky. Focus now waiting to see if he can take out Darm, but Darm, just from overhead, finds the first opening shots. Thomas HD no longer the action, and Darm Deemish, for the second time today, Dakota, they've got another victory royale.
It was looking so bright, but look, it's still good either way for Thomas and Focus. Congrats as well to Deemish and Darm. Another big match from this duo, propelling themselves up that leaderboard. We said we wanted more eliminations. Frankie was asking for it. Well, Frankie, you have got it now. That match was insane. I don't even know how many total eliminations there was from those final teams, but what a way to close it out, Taco.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all Focus and Thomas were really looking for was as many elimination points that they could possibly build up here, Takata. We have not seen a duo really lead the charge in today's competition quite the same way that Focus and Thomas have. It was just so aggressive, so demanding. They just refused to let anybody escape their visuals at the very beginning. But obviously, Takata, we're not the only ones that witnessed some of that massacre that took place. So, Frankie, Minnie, Reese, what do y'all say?
I'm taking credit for all the eliminations that we got there. It was absolutely all me. Without stepping into the lobby, I manifested more eliminations. And guys, you're welcome. And Deemers and Darm putting up yet another successful fight. I just like the cut of these guys' jibs. I have to say, Mini Miner, the fact that they're in a reload lobby makes it 10 times better, 10 times more exciting. And they were able to do things from the low ground in style there.
Yeah, they're playing that low ground really, really well. They're sort of clashing with Sky and Scroll at times as well. It's really, really, really great to watch, actually, that sort of fight going down on low ground. And it does seem like Deemish and Darm just have it all figured out right now. They're sort of playing those mid-ground layers a little bit earlier on, and then when things get a little bit difficult with the cube rifles later on, they're then dropping on down in front of Sky and Scroll. And in that particular game, it worked out really well. And then, of course, towards the end of the game, when they need to go for that height and then, of course, go for the win, they do what they did in game number 1, Reese, and find success.
Yeah, I think what we're really seeing here is a game plan in action, because that first game is almost exactly what we just watched here. A 9 elimination win, and now we've just seen another 9 elimination win. Both ended in the exact same way. The final 2v2, they used the overdrive grenades to fly up onto height and use the cube rifle to win it out. So it's like, you know, these guys' playstyle is clearly practiced. They clearly know exactly what they're doing. They have such a well-planned game plan. So yeah, I'm not really surprised that they're doing so good.
And what's great is they don't even need the cube rifle earlier on in the game. They just find so many of those eliminations from the mid to low ground that they just end up getting one at some point as well. So it just seems like this way they're playing is so great. And I suppose we spoke about the cube rifle a lot in regards to in the respect of like playing height and looking down at everyone else. But when you can use it just to take height so easily like they can, it's so effective for them.
Well, it's been a great lobby for Demas and Dom so far, but let's talk about who else is thriving after the break.
Teammate time is back. Push now. Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting up Vanya. 3v1. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, forget it, the crown you want is fitted. Take shots, don't miss it. If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better have somebody. Already, I consume the patty, it's plenty. I leave a penny for thoughts about how I'm living. Ay, turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, this is where I got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, me off the top, no way. I came and called my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace me. 3-4 these out, spread ass on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up where you supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose and find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, I get it, they love my whole aesthetic. They got so listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the go nowhere saddle. Go right inside my body, cut them off, they yak and slice. Already, I consume the petty. The vision 2020, the Leo eyes ready. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to
Welcome back to the Reload Elite Series. We're 4 games in. We're at the halfway point tonight, and Demas and Dom have already picked up 2 victory royales. So let's see if they can pick up even more as we head into our final games. Let's look at the leaderboard if we can, though, because it's really interesting to see that Focus and Thomas have managed to make it further up the leaderboard, but you can't see them on page number 1. If we go to page number 2, we can see that they have gone from 19th place up to 11th. That's how I have to say it. That's how poorly they were performing before they finally managed to get second place race in game 4.
Oh, I wondered what words you were going to use there. You know,
I'm trying to be positive about it. Okay?
They were not. Yeah, they were not. But the thing is, here you go. Right, first 3 games, they stunk it up, right? They're barely on any points. So they sit here and go, you know what? We need to make a change. We need to do something. They've upped the aggression big time. Coming into the moving zones, or coming into the partials even, like 5th and 6th zone here, they have 6 eliminations before that. They highly aggressively push for height in the 8th zone, super earlier than any team we've seen success from here. And then in that end game, they're jumping down. They're going for elims. They're getting on walls because they know if they want to come top 5, or they end up actually qualifying through, then they need to actually have these massive games and continue this for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, and the thing they did really well that some of the teams that played height earlier on didn't do so well is they actually reclaimed height super well as well. We saw Swizzy and Pixie trying to take it off of them with their cube rifle. They then had to sort of drop down, had to play a little bit solo for a second, and then they were able to recover and reclaim that high ground. So important for them. Hopefully they can continue that aggression, because of course, you know, we saw a team like No Rally and Reason pick up a win and then sort of fall off a little bit in the games following. So hopefully now this is a sort of sign of things to come rather than just a one-off for this team.
If you take a look at the bottom of the standings there, that 20th place team, that's Ping and Wox, guys. So even though we have these big experienced names in the lobby tonight, some of them are not able to keep up the pace. And Clapsy and Cloud, we probably shouldn't be surprised that they're in 19th, because this is their first ever, I guess, I can't say FNCS lobby because this is Res. It's their first Res lobby. They haven't made an FNCS Grand Finals tonight, but the fact that they've made it into the top 20 for Heat 3 is impressive in itself. But let's see if they can pull off an attention-grabbing performance as we head into game number 5 with Taco and Takata.
One thing's for sure, we're already starting to see some of the repercussions of being eliminated so early on in the way that it shifts the leaderboard overall, because right now, looking at Cash and Theron, they were just sitting in that first place position or challenging Sky and Scroll for it, Takata, and now, because they were eliminated so early on, they've been pushed down to 4th, and while that's still technically within the qualification range for LAN, it's just become a lot more threatening because other teams are definitely playing catch-up. So let's see what happens here in Game 5.
They just can't let it happen again. They've got, the halfway point now, gone through 4 more matches left to play out. They just cannot afford it to keep going down off spawn. So we'll see if Clapsy and Keeled will get the back-to-back here, or if Theron and Kashi will be able to continue fighting for that qualification spot. But it looks like they might even be disengaging here a little. Yeah.
No, they're hiding, they're lurking, they're waiting. Killed has been spotted though. Kind of gave away his position though, to be fair, but Kashi and Theron, they're definitely being a lot more cautious with how they proceed, because they know you can win every single off spawn here, Takata, but when you start losing the ones that matter, the ones where the games are starting to shift a little bit more towards those big jump gaps in the points, that's where it becomes much more dicey with maintaining your position for those land qual spots. Reason to O'Reilly very much in a similar position. They've definitely been contending a fair bit with Skydip and Mumsy. Escape it for right now, but Fieden not going to be able to close out, and Fieden Kashi one more time brought down by Clapsy and Kjeld. And they'll have to sit in horror and wait to see what the damage is actually like with the conclusion of Game 5. But if I had to make any kind of a guess here, Takata, I would definitely wager they might find themselves being overtaken. Podesai Sato, Hadi Kami, Swizzy Pixie, Nebs Nathan. I could keep going. The list just keeps going because there are so many veteran teams here with experienced individuals combined as duos. And Clapsy Kill, they might not even get the benefit from winning the off spawn, because Reason and Noah Riley immediately looking to try and apply additional pressure. Reason 1 HP does find that first knock, but it's going to be Pablo and Chino to take them down. They're not going to allow any sort of intervention here. Chino and Pablo, they're going to actually be the ones to benefit heavily.
Yeah, this is quite devastating for Kashi Furin. We'll see if they're able to play catch-up after you've seen what's possible with one big match. Thomas HD Focus from the last match went from the bottom end of the leaderboard, I think in 19th, all the way to almost top 10. One more game like that, and Thomas and Focus can be close to that qualifying range with 4 more opportunities. We're still have a lot to go. Darm Demish, nothing too crazy yet. They've been quite passive here in the early games.
The one benefit, though, is that Reason and Noah, they were able to actually stagger the way they got Elin there. Holding on. Skyjump very much trying to hold on to his life in this lobby right now. Is Noah Riley going to be the one getting a little bit more aggressive here. Again, all these teams that are experiencing those early eliminations, those early reboots, they've got to make up for it somewhere, and sometimes finding eliminations can help you get back on track.
Sky Jump Gonna recuperate his HP as Momsy is gonna be put into panic with Noah Reason pushing them now. Issue is, Reason gets knocked down. Good news, Noah's here to save the day. As he's gonna pick him up, and he should have enough time, as there is a player getting close, but with a 2v1, shouldn't be much of an issue here.
I'm just still in such disbelief, though, that Clapsy and Kel, they win the off spawn for the second time today, and Chino Pablo waste absolutely zero time. And the fact that they weren't the only ones, there is very obviously sharks in the water here in today's competition, Takata. All they need to see is just one player's name pop up in the elimination feed, and if it's anyone that's even remotely close to where they might be at, you can expect the immediate collapse from the rest of the lobby here. Shadow and Podesai, though, haven't had a chance to get as active as some of these other teams, but pretty solid loadouts to start things off.
Yeah, splitting up some of the heals, shields. As we head over to a much more popular spot of the map, it seems. Kamihari, they have not been playing aggressive. They've been playing avoidant a lot of the start of these matches. They do not want to put themselves in positions where they can go down before those placement points come through. Pixie Swizzy, though, already having a cube rifle this early on. It's going to give them that upper hand.
It's one thing to have the cube rifle, though. It's another to actually be able to put yourself into a position to really utilize it. They made the attempt in the last game. Unfortunately, they just weren't healthy enough in the HP department to actually withstand that high retake from Thomas and Focus. So they're looking to try and switch up the script for this game. 104 points. Not the worst day, but not their best either. Obviously, they're looking for more.
Naps and Nathan had a really strong start to the day, but since then they've not been able to break a top 10 in any match. Got a bit of eliminations in the last one, currently sitting at 8th place on the leaderboard. They're gonna have to find a way to kind of get back into it here, get a nice endgame finish, so hopefully they'll find out what's holding them back.
I do think it's interesting, though, checking in on all three of our teams that are essentially tied for that 7th place position. Seti and Kame are going to be the final piece of that pie because 104 points. That's been the theme so far for Swizzy Pixie, Nebs Nathan, and now Comeback and Seti. So who's going to be the first to try and separate themselves from the rest? Because one fact remains between all three of those teams, Takata. Every single one of them is going to need a lot more points, whether it's via eliminations, and obviously looking for those endgame placements. But as it currently stands, they are not in position for that land qual.
Yeah, current cutoff is 161 points. First and second leading by a hefty margin. Darm Demish with 237, Sky Scroll at 223. Good news for the teams is, you know, Sky Scroll, Pablo Chino, our two already qualled duos are in that top 3, so the cutoff is significantly lower due to that, but, you know, things can change. We're only halfway through.
Always like to give Sven his flowers when it comes to that duo of Darm and Demish. He's been coaching them for a while now, and they've definitely made a lot of advancements here in this third Riedel Elite Series finals. So far, haven't placed outside of the top 10 in any of the lobbies here today. Hopefully that doesn't jinx them for later on, but focusing back in onto where Chino and Pablo are at. They're going to send themselves way up overhead. Should be a relatively smooth rotate in towards zone, but it's obvious that they're also trying to make more of a dead side approach here.
Demish and Darm, we're our first duo to kind of have that big elite elim match of the day. And now after the last one, there's been a lot more action coming through, as it looks like a wall replace could get dangerous here. Sky and Scroll on the other end, they were thinking about it, but a quick runaway. Duos in the surrounding areas, this might not be the time you want to take this fight.
Been unlucky there for Sky. He was trying to get that right side peak angle, but just didn't net anything for him. Happens to the best, though. Even Sky and Scroll can have the occasional miss out for opening engagement, but Deemish Darm, certainly a team that is not foreign to fighting. They are more than happy to try and duke things out here, but seem a little bit preoccupied with staring down here on Frostroki. Could potentially get caught here. Two relatively strong teams looking your direction. I mean, not exactly the spot I'd want to be.
No, not at all. What does I say, though? In zone, all they got to do is hold on a few seconds here, though. And they should be fine. It is going to be Pablo and Chino kind of up above on this hill.
Cool, calm, and collected. Kira and Karama a little bit further out. His team start funneling in. Pablo and Chino are going to begin to make their way forward, but they know there's a team, a moderate surge base above them. Take a moment to pause here, but they want to remain in an elevated position on this cliff face. Still, Thomas Focus making the approach from a little bit further back. That could be trouble brewing for both of those other duos, because Thomas Focus, even despite winning that last lobby, Takata, they still need plenty more points. And, you know, sometimes you just gotta rip the Band-Aid off. You know that you've had a rough day, but hey, just send it, because that seems to have been a winning formula for Focus and Thomas, especially after that last game.
No, I think that's exactly what they needed. I mean, you know, the mental game, it's there despite these veterans, you know, being incredibly used to pressure in tournaments like these. When you have such a rough start, it's going to get to you. But a big match like that, for a duo like Thomas and Focus, it's what they need to reignite that fire within them. So I'm hoping to see them continue with the momentum from last game and get another big one here.
Couple of tags, though, from other players in the lobby. Slapperoni Pizza will be dropped. Probably easier to just carry those pizza slices anyway for Focus and Thomas, but not exactly in a line of sight for the lobby focus to take place just yet. Sky Scroll, on the other hand, the team kind of hovering more towards that exterior side of the zone, and as they look in, waiting for the tick over. Momsy Sky Jump, though, success, taking out Twy. Whether or not Twy made it in, questionable, but just barely managing to reboot. But that'll be his last chance to do so, because reboots are fully disabled here. 7 zone taken over, and Cringe, sadly enough, Momsy Sky Jump, they know just how hurt he is, and he won't get the chance to escape. Momsy's gonna find final elimination there. Sky Jump navigating his way over, and Twy about to meet a similar fate here. Cube rifle shots from the distance. Rest of the lobby in front of him. There's just nowhere left to run.
Yeah, really not what you want to happen. Especially considering there's still 17 teams up. Sky and Scroll 223 just continuing. Kind of extend that gap from third place, but you know, a lot of big things can happen here now. Chino, Pablo are the team right below them in third. Trying to get ahead of the zone here, full low.
Sky and Scroll want that 30 band, so let's be so for real right now. And with the way that they've been putting on a display here today, Takata, every lobby just brings them one step closer. If they can stick true to finding consistency and just making it to those end games, that'll be the difference maker between maintaining that first place position on the leaderboard, finding themselves dipping a little bit lower here as Mumsy Sky Jump looking in. Flapseek yelled. Success with the off spawn, but everything after the fact has been a little bit rocky here since Pablo's earlier intervening.
Zone is gonna pull east. Good news is players below the bridge should still have a pretty linear route, as now it's a waiting game for this zone to begin to move. Some players might allude to kind of the launch pad free rotate. Others are going to use this drastic change in elevation, the ravine they kind of have to block themselves from the surrounding area. Skyjump Momsy, though, are going to kick things off. Going ahead.
Seems like they're Taking a page out of Focus and Thomas's book from the last game. 7 eliminations already for Mumsy and Skyjump. Meanwhile, Pixie, Swizzy still yet to find their first, but they're more interested in just making it towards that end game, making it into the big placement rewards. Now, Focus Thomas off the launch pad. All they really want to overtake, though, is a position on height.
They want it. They want it. They know what happened in the last game when they played extra aggressive for that height early on. They held it for the whole match, basically. And once again, they're looking for a repeat.
Looked like Thomas was about to get the better end of Kotri and Finchek yet again. It's almost starting to feel personal just because of the way those two keep clashing. But no, Thomas, Focus, they're just doing everything in their power to try and muster up as many points as they can find. But now, Focus, Thomas extending overhead tarp. Seti nearly getting brought down along the way of his rotate. Pixie, Swizzy also from that secondary height position, putting down some good pressure. Cube Rifle introduces a lot of doom and despair for the teams that aren't able to actually utilize it and instead are on the receiving end of it. But Focus, Thomas just trying to do as best a job as they can, preventing other teams from challenging them. But do they realize that Pablo is so far overhead?
Didn't have a lot of HP, though. It'd be a risky play from Pablo to do anything from that. Momsy gonna be able to recuperate that shield he lost. Sky Scroll, though, not in the position they want to be in. Incredibly low on HP and shield. They're gonna have to take some time to recuperate it, but time is not necessarily on their hand as the rotate is gonna have to come through here. But Focus, what has went wrong? They were looking like they were controlling height so well, and you called it, Taco. It's gonna be Pablo and Chino.
That's the moment they're waiting for. Look, they might not have a whole lot of healing assets, but it might not matter because Thomas and Focus, one way or the other, they're going to force their way back towards the high ground. And Pablo Chino just a little bit too injured. They'll actually opt to drop even further still. Seti, Comeback, just trying to pick up the scraps now in some of these lower layers. They know that they need the points. They've already got 2 eliminations there onto Comeback, but Pablo, he's not done just yet, but Focus will make him be finished as Thomas and Focus continue to work their way back up towards the high ground, but the material count, it's so incredibly low. Focus is going to fall, and now it's 2 separate teams because Reason and Noah Riley, they were trying to take the stab at height. Thomas trying to shut that dream down, but Noah Riley still thinking he wants to play for the revive, but it's going to be a bailout by Nathan instead. Thomas playing it greedy, but it works out.
Does it, though, as now no HP to work with. Focus has fallen once again. Did not last more than 2 seconds, but a big shot comes through from Thomas, unable to get the knock. He has no builds, he has no heals, just 17 HP to work with. A big bailout is what he needs. He gets the knock, and he almost secures the other, but Contri is going to come out on top.
But ultimately, it's Nebs and Nathan who profited so heavily from all that aggression taking place on the high ground. Momsy trying to see if he could make his way upwards, and Nathan will fall. Nobody's able to actually hold on to height for longer than a couple of seconds, it seems, because Momsy, Skyjump, they've now overthrown Nebs and Nathan. It's going to be up to Nebs to try and clutch out some solar placement points here, and he finds 1 elimination, but gets shut down along the way. Reskar Sangil now playing ultimate low here, front side of zone control. But how much can you avoid from Momsy and Skyjump with this Q rifle?
Looks like they want to set a record for the most eliminations today. Already hitting double digits. Momsy with 8, Skyjump with 2. This is a massive match for this team. 5 teams up, 8 players left. The issue is the material count. It's running low, just 3 builds left for Momsy. A lot of healthy duos down below. They're gonna have to apply that pressure.
Good news, though, for this duo is that the Cube Rifle, if there's one thing it can definitely accomplish, it's applying solid pressure. Skyjump and Momsy still making sure to play hip-to-hip. Hottie Candy, same intentions. Overdrive grenades to give him a little bit of mobility here. Flowberry Fist 2 for some shield. Skyjump finds Sandguild. Can he make it towards the body, though? He needs that little bit of siphon materials. Momsy will manage to find a refresh himself, too, onto Poda's side, but now looking back up, it's all up to Hottie to see whether or not he can keep this match going for him and Cammy. Has the meta medkit to try and place out some additional points here, but Mumsy just been getting so fraggy with it. He needs to look back. He needs to find Hadi, but can Hadi actually withstand? And sure enough, Mumsy's not going to be able to find him in time, so Cammy and Hadi find their first victory royale on the day.
It paid off to play safe earlier on. They've been constantly just looking for these end games. They've been making it there, and now finally they've gotten the big match they were looking for. Shout out as well to Skyjump Momsy. I think that might be the most eliminations we've seen today. They weren't able to close it out, but with the amount of placement points, with the amount of eliminations both Hari Cammy got and Skyjump Momsy, it's more than enough. Desk, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, Hari and Cammy finding so much consistency in the lobby tonight, and it's paid off with the victory royale, Mini Miner.
Yeah, it's actually nice to see. They've been sort of finding those end games really nicely. They've kept themselves afloat in that sort of top 5, top 6 section of the leaderboard. They just needed that big game, that big push to get into, of course, that top 3 in terms of qualification for the LAN. So nice to see these guys. I mentioned it earlier, we want to see Cammy on LAN. There's still a good way to go here, Reese, but really good signs for these guys, particularly winning it from heel off as well.
Yeah, of course. You know, in Reload, as we've noticed, if you've watched any of the matches so far, it is very difficult to get placement points. You know, for a team who is so reliant on consistency, you know, placing like top 5s every single match, it's really tough. So they're doing a really, really good job of getting into basically the 12th zone every single game. And if the things go right like that, you know, you can just capitalize on a little victory royale as well.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to see how far like these guys can go. Like literally, if they can keep it up game after game after game. They're not necessarily the biggest risk takers in the lobby, but it's always good to see Cammy potentially winning a spot on LAN race.
Absolutely. You know, like as we mentioned already, Cammy, I think everyone's going to say has the best LAN placements, full stop. So any LAN without him is honestly just a miss.
I mean, yeah, he's just the player that you want to see on LAN. Even just there, of course, going down, having the mind, the thought, thinking ahead of time to drop Shari that med kit to keep them in the game, and of course win them the game in the end is so smart. So they just need to keep up this consistency now. They've given themselves that boost to get into that qualification zone, you have to imagine. So keep up doing what they're doing. They should be just fine.
Well, we'll head to a short break. When we come back, we'll be getting into 3 more games. So we'll see you in a few.
Teammates have his back. There's Nash. Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1.
games remain in tonight's Fortnite Reload Elite Series Heat 3 finals. Obviously, this is the European edition. Middle East has been playing out at the same time. And tonight, you'll get to see the North American broadcast. So make sure you stick around for that one. Let's talk, though, about game number 5, because it was, I mean, as we've been saying, getting increasingly... I'm trying to think of a word that's more acceptable than violent. Aggressive. Let's just say aggressive, guys. I shouldn't be thinking out loud there, but I was. And you know what? There was no one more aggressive, it feels like, than Mumsy in that last game, Resub. And I know you've been counting the cube rifles that we've seen in the games, and we saw quite a few in that one. They are creeping outside a spot in the LAN finals, and if their luck keeps up, they might be able to make it.
Yeah, of course, that was, I was going to say their biggest game, but I think probably the biggest game so far. A huge amount of eliminations for them, and, you know, the way they play this, of course, ultra aggressive. In the early game, they were really benefited by the fact that they were fighting a couple teams of spawn, but you see what they're doing right here? Spraying out height from the backside, eating Storm whilst chopping out height, which allowed them to take it later on there.
Really nice stuff from these guys, and that's, of course, giving them the green light to go for height. I mean, if you can use the cube rifle to then take height, you're going to be so strong when you're up there on top of it as well. And realistically, 9 times out of 10, they probably do win this game, of course, if it wasn't for Cammy and Ari having that med kit there at the end. It just, of course, closed out a little bit too early for them. Of course, Momsy had to get a little bit fraggy here at the end and didn't have, of course, the whites to make it happen. But a 14 elimination game. They were down in sort of 16th, 14th before this game, so really nice for them.
It's absolutely ridiculous from these two. So yeah, let's see if luck is on their side, as I said before. And if we look further up, Cammy and Chari managing to stay consistently within that top 3, as we've mentioned. They got the victory royale in the last game, and it's showing out in the stats. Interesting to see Swizzy and Pixie also moving up the board. And then we have to talk about Podesai for like Mini Minor, because I feel like he is just hanging on in there. He knows that he's in with a shot, and I feel like this is the best we've seen him play for a while. Let's head though into game number 6, because Taco and Takata are ready to take us through the action.
Thank you, Frankie. Look, this is where things start changing up a little bit. We've already been past the halfway point, now getting into game 6. You're getting closer and closer to those final matches of the day, and it keeps switching between top 5 to qualify, top 4 to qualify, and it's getting a lot closer on the top end of that leaderboard.
This is where the gloves have really got to come off for all of these teams, though, that have just been throwing out light punches here and there in the early game. No, you've got to go for an all-out scrap fest currently, because eliminations, they're just not going to cut it. You need to make sure that you are in those endgame positions, because so many teams have proven time and time again just how rapidly they can ascend up on that leaderboard if they just get that one solid endgame performance.
Good news is we don't have to wait long, because game 6 is ready to go. Feeling that pressure after back-to-back tragic games. If it happens again now, they're running out of matches, Taco.
It's not only that, they're running out of distance. The point gap has been overcome. They've managed to play cash up, and the problem now for Kashi and Fieden is, even if you are successful with the off spawn, now you're depending upon some of those other teams to perform much worse than what they have been to get to that place to begin with. But it looks like coast is clear right now. Dell and Clapsy a little bit more separated from where Fieden and Kashi are at. Still, always going to be a lot of cautiousness for how Kashi and Fieden proceed, because they cannot afford to miss out on another lobby here, Takata.
Yeah, not at all. Wonder if it was a drop diff or kind of what changed up here, but you know, despite them kind of winning that initial engagement, as you've mentioned, everybody in the lobby knows so well. They did their homework, kind of what happens in the surrounding area. So as soon as you see one of those elims on the feed from the players by you, like you said, sharks in the water ready. Have dinner. Is catching and fearing now. Feeling a little bit more comfortable, hopefully.
Got enough of a loadout to fight, but Mumsy and Skyjump, they're already in it. They're gonna opt to actually take the teleporter out. Comeback and Seti. But look who's on the other end. The moment they go through, Mumsy From the frying pan straight into the fire here with this one. Flapsy and Yell just immediately punishing Mumsy for attempting to escape. But now, Flapsy yelled, they take this teleporter. You have to remember, other teams already trying to set up for those ambush opportunities. Flapsy yelled, they're chilling for right now. Reason has gone down, though. Noah Riley obviously still kicking. Haven't seen a duo wipeout just yet, but the eliminations are definitely rolling in.
Revenge. That's what they're getting here. Great way to kick things off. 165 points. I mean, there's more and more teams getting into that 200-point range. They're outside of qualifying in 7th place right now. Skyjob Momsy's on top of them. That's some of the good news, seeing what just happened there.
You don't want to have to spend the bulk of your game just looking for the recovery. You want to make sure that you get off to a solid start, because so many teams, as the zones draw closer and closer towards first moving, second moving, it's so much more difficult if you're just working with scraps because you've been frequently rebooting in the early game.
Looking back over to Sky and Skrull. Currently our 2nd place team right below Dharm and Demish. They've been doing it well. Last game didn't quite go their way. They got 16th, 0 eliminations, but once they kind of make it far enough, they're easily able to capitalize on that and convert into big matches. 3rd, 1st, 4th. And you know they're feeling confident, but speak of the 1st place team like a meteor crashing down from the sky. Quick elimination onto Dharm. That is not the way you want to go down.
Demish, though, still rolling around, but Sky Skrull, they might just look to play for punishing methods here. Chasing out Dharm, trying to nosedive, trying to make sure that he can touch the ground, but Sky and Skrull, they'll have none of it. They know Dharm's got next to nothing to work with after just rebooting. But a snipe from a distance here. Sato with the bailout of a lifetime, and Skrull, he's sent packing. Akira Kurama, they might recognize this as a solo, and Sky Skrull immediately punished. They were trying to fight for that 1st place position. Instead, they find themselves on the receiving end here. What a snipe out, though, from Sato.
That is not the way you want to go down. I mean, the bright side is they've already played so well. They already have so many points that, you know, it's only a tiny little hiccup in the overall performance from this duo, but still, what a way to go down.
That might also be Dharm and Demish's demise, too, because you have to remember, a team's definitely scouting out the fact, hey, Sky Skrull, they're over here for a reason. They're clearly chasing this solo that's freshly rebooting, and man, it's just tough to think that our 1st and 2nd place teams, they're now going to be left in really awkward positions. I mean, Sky and Skrull obviously the most awkward since they've been fully eliminated, but for Dharm and Demish, it's going to be difficult for them to maintain that leverage over some of these other teams in the lobby. Demi and Hadi not too far behind. But Chino, Pablo, they've got other intentions. They're looking to play a little bit more isolated from where some of these actions have been taking place.
3rd zone. This 4th appears close by. Skyjump Momsy had a great match, but they weren't able to close it out with a win either way. 14 eliminations, 2nd place. I mean, they are incredibly close to qualifying now as we take a quick look at what Akira Kurama have been up to, picking up Dharm. He is not having a good match. He is not having a fun match right now, but hopefully gonna be, and once again you can see on the feed.
Unfortunately for Dharm, I fear that that is going to continue to be his fate unless he's given another saving grace. Sato, Podozai, you never know with those two. Maybe some other teams looking to get involved here. Momsy, Skyjump. Bit of a rough start for Momsy, but seems like they've had a decent recovery. Loadout's looking solid enough to get a little active with. I'm hovering some leftover materials. but somebody else's body loot. Both Momsy and Skyjump have yet to find their first elimination in Game 6.
Elimination shouldn't be much of a problem for this duo. Going down, though, can be a little concerning as Fincheck gets a quick shot, but no aggression's going to come through from it. A lot more teams in the surrounding areas as well, as Momsy's going to choose the disengagement route here. Good amount of mats. You don't want to use them all, especially when you get closer and closer to that late game. But Country Fincheck at 93 points, a big game, is still what they need.
They're not trying to let Skyjump and Mumsy run. They want these elimination points. They know Mumsy's hurt. Trying to see if he can find an angle, but instead Fincheck going to get turned upon. A great supportive fire coming out of Skyjump here to save Mumsy, and just like that, Mumsy just 180 this fight. He'll be able to find the final shots here, get that elimination. It is their first, but realistically, all they really wanted to do was just create a little bit of a safety net here, some room to breathe, and finally they'll have it. Because Country's got to be sent the opposite direction here now. He wants to make sure that his duo actually has a chance to properly reboot.
How long is it going to last, though? As Momsy isn't going to let the disengagement slide so easily. Overdrive coming through. 7 more to work with. Where did he go, Momsy? You lost him. Just on the edge of the mountain there. Will he take a shot? Yes, he will. And hold on a second.
Okay, go back.
Momsy, you can't lose this.
All right, Fincheck
Falls to zone.
won't have the chance. Skyjump will get those credits for that extra elimination damage, but Mumsy and Skyjump, they're still doing what they can to try and continue climbing for that leaderboard presence. Swizzy and Pixie, though, plethora of heals right now. 2 Slapperoni pizzas, but they're gonna need a big performance here at Takata because other teams have already delivered, and that's left them in a bit of a pickle here now. They're still in the top 10. It's still feasible, but the gap just continues to grow with every lobby that passes them by.
Yeah, it kind of depends how the other duos perform that are in the surrounding, area of them on the leaderboard. We have Skyjump Momsy, Kashi Fearin, Nebs Nathan, Chino Pablo. They're kind of hoping for Chino and Pablo to do well, so they comfortably put themselves in qualifying range and open up that extra slot, making it top 5. Beamish Darm, rough start of the match, but looks like they've recuperated enough. Gonna still play Storm until they no longer can, and that end game's kind of ready to be played out.
This is kind of brutal, though. Darm doing what he can, trying to pick up some leftovers. At the same time, we're already in the 2-tick, Takata. We'll take that launch pad in, but other team surely gonna be looking up at the skies right now as Darm and Deemish might just opt for teleportation play instead. It's Thomas and Focus.
Yeah,
Had
this
their
team on the
pop
other
off.
hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one thing that, like, to have a Victory Royale game and then it can't just be a one-off kind of performance.
Yeah, that's the issue. They do need another big match, unlike the other duos we were looking at that are kind of right outside of that cutoff. They can't afford just some decently consistent end games. They need these big matches, and it looks like they're trying to set themselves up for that. I don't see them playing overly aggressive, though. They're not kind of in panic like they were when they were at the bottom half of the leaderboard, so hopefully that mental stability is going to be enough to allow them to get these big matches.
Darm and Deemish might actually have to contend with storm sickness here because of how this starting point has been for them. Rollercoaster of emotions, though. All they're really trying to do is just confirm a little bit of extra placement. They know with their biggest competitors for that first place position, being Sky and Scroll, getting eliminated so early on, if they can just hold on, make it into some decent placement, they can make sure that they retain that first place spot. They are still trying to find their EWC land qual here today as well.
Momsy Skyjump positioned very well. Issue is zone did not pull in their favor, so they are going to allude to the overdrive right back down to low. Kiro Fastroki right on the other end here. So now they're going to wait for the rest of the teams to rotate on through.
Looking back though, Kira spotted out. No shots to connect though from Momzi. Podesai Sato. Currently a little bit more towards that front side, but just looking to expand. They're looking for a chance. Try and keep moving one step forward. Teams that come crashing in though from those overdrive grenades. Seti and Comeback a little bit injured here on their approach is Cammy, Hadi. Also trying to see what kind of damage they can deal. Cammy a little bit more bold too. Some of these weapon choices.
Yeah. They actually have some of the lowest average eliminations, so they're not playing aggressive, but they are doing a great job of making these end games. Thomas Focus taking a similar route specifically just for this match. As Pablo and Chino now are doing what they can. They were on the top end of that leaderboard earlier on. They've kind of slowly fallen off. But one decent game is all they really need.
For Comeback though, he'll be left to try and see what he can actually build up here as a solo, losing Seti just as the reboots have been disabled. Now having to make his way forward. And there's still so many duos left standing. Swizzy and Pixie. A lot of white heels to work with. Just waiting to see if they can have their moment to shine. Thomas, Focus, also trying to replicate some of that magic they had managed to capture in their Victor Royale moment, but again, you just need so much more. The placement just becomes so brutal for these duos.
You can almost feel a bit of the pressure from this lobby. It's not as aggressive as it's been in this zone previously in the earlier matches. When we get closer to those final matches, the teams kind of realize, oh, okay, you know, we've running out of chances here slowly. But the Image Darm, it's not about running out of chances, it's just maintaining what they already have. Big connection up to the elevated mountain area here. But this is where the pads come through, where the mobility items get used, and where you have to be careful of the clouds.
You really got to keep an eye out for Pablo and Chino, but still even higher up than them, Cammy and Hadi, Nebs, Nathan, all of these duos kind of staring each other down, hoping that they're not going to be the first ones to be fixated on by the team currently holding on to height. Is Thomas Focus. They're willing to hedge their bets on seeing if they can maintain the high ground one more time. Looking back, but really what they should be is looking up. Darm, Deemish. Could be a big part of the reason, though, why Thomas and Focus are so distracted. The way that they maneuver through the secondary height, if they can bring down Akira, that could be a big difference maker here. But for a team that was so shambles at the start of this game, Takata, they've done an excellent job at bringing things back to a solid position.
You could tell with ammunition, though, there was only 10 shots in Darm's shotgun there. So he has to choose wisely which players he goes for here. As now 10th zone will be appearing shortly. They are going to try and get a bit ahead. A great position so far. As now all they got to do is wait 5 seconds to see what happens. Thomas and Focus continuing to hold on to height. No eliminations on the board yet, but they've got the cube rifle. They've got mats. They've got a loadout to take home the game.
All they really need to have from this point on is awareness. You don't want to get height checked by teams using that Fizzbat strategy. Is now Momzi, Sky Jump, trying to see Reason narrowly managing to avoid being brought down here. But Darm and Deemish, a little bit of disaster seeming to strike here. Trying to contend with repairs underneath them. Noah Riley also on the other side of their wall, but Darm, Deemish gonna be Fullberry Fizz and keep it moving. Podesai, Sato on their last legs here, and Sato will be brought down, but Podesai at least finds that elimination. There's gonna be some additional points here. Darm, Deemish. Material count is so slim now. The refresh could be the difference maker. After all, is Klopsy, what exactly is he able to deliver? It's mostly Siphon materials, and Deemish has fallen. Darm left as a solo. He's more than comfortable, though, at navigating his own way forward here. All he needs to do is connect to the big shot, but he's already delivered on so many of those today. He just has to keep replicating it.
From how the game started, the performance is there as Reason, cube rifle up to height. Not sure if it's gonna be enough as Swizzy, lot of loot close by. Twy, though, has his eyes on the prize. Focus is left alone now. Thomas HD has gone down to that height retake from Reason. As Focus is running low on materials, he picks up His teammates Matt's 32 now on the board, has a little bit of a fizz left, one pizza slice. He has to get back to zone, but a huge shot! The revenge onto Noah. He said, you take out my duo, I'm not letting that one slide.
Talk about reaction timers, though. Noah didn't have any chance to respond, just immediately deleted from the lobby. Keto and for Strokey, though, ultimate lows. Pablo with the snipe out onto focus from height. Pablo now going to make sure to pick up those remains, but it's all about Pablo and Chino sending themselves upwards. The cube rifle shots being sent downwards. Gashi Fit and doing what they can, trying to hold on, but Gashi, he's out of this one. Darm might be soon to follow here. All of these teams just finding themselves on the receiving end of this cube rifle currently, and not only that, but they've got to deal with Chino too underneath. A mastermind of elimination series here needed to take place, but Chino, he's already got two. Pixie might be the third, and sure enough, Chino and Pablo in a pretty dominating fashion here at those last couple of moments, but Victory Royale's all the same. Takada, they've definitely built up some nice placement here.
Look, there's a reason they've been the most consistent duo in this reload format. They are now back on top once again. There's more we would expect from a duo of this caliber. Frankie, Reese, Minnie, how are we feeling?
Thank you so much, guys. Pablo and Chino, they're already qualified for the LAN finals, but that doesn't mean they can't have a bit of fun tonight, and they managed to pull a win out of the chaos, Reese. But actually, when we saw them on height with the cube rifle, it was inevitable.
It was. I'm not going to say it. It was inevitable. It was so... I don't want to say easy. That's not the word I'm going to use. But this is like the first game I think we've seen with both these players alive in a duo. Right? Every single time the previous games, it's been solo clutch, whether it was Pablo, whether it was Chino. This time they actually managed to just play very, very passively. You saw them use the launchpad strat up, take height later on, and then easy win.
Yeah, it's actually nice to see them use that strat as well. It's something we sort of spoke about at the beginning of the day. Potentially, a team could use this, and these guys were the example that we saw in the sort of packages and the highlights that we were looking at. And they just haven't been able to find those wins from what I've been seeing when they've been doing that and actually playing those end games. Like for what you just mentioned, Reese, of course, the fact that they're trying to solo clutch, which doesn't always work out for them, and you can't necessarily find that consistency with so many solo clutches. So hopefully now this is sold to them finding the success and finding the formula that they need to turn those good games into wins. Because I think if they can figure that out consistently, they're genuinely going to be so unstoppable. We've seen what they can do in the previous weeks. If they can get on a bit of a run and find some wins like this, they should be on for a winner.
Definitely. And I think this is one of those games where, you know, every time we see these guys, they have like 50 builds, and it's usually by like the 7th, 8th zone, and then they're just still going by the 9th zone. But this is one of the first times this tournament we've looked at them, they've had a solid mid game. You know, it came into the kind of 9th, 8th kind of zone, that region, and they actually had 100 builds. They had mobility, they had the ability to play out the game as a full duo. So of course it pays off.
It's really good to see Pablo Chino on top, and this is a new map, so there's a lot to learn, but they've obviously found their footing, and we'll see if they can continue that after the break.
Two teammates have his back. There's Nash. Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting up Vanya. 3v1.
We've got a couple more games tonight in the Fortnite Reload Elite Series Heat 3 finals here in Europe, but already the lobby is hot to trot because we had an epic spicy moment as Sky and Scroll, who I normally think is absolute angels, went for the jugular of first place Demus and Dom, and Reese, it didn't quite go their way.
It didn't quite go their way, but this is the kind of plays you want to make if you want to win a tournament. They were in second place. Sky and Scroll goes to the big fizz pad. You can see them flying through the sky. They get the elimination. It's great. Sky goes to chase Darm again. This is going to be another elimination point. You ruin the other player's chances, potentially, of being able to stay in first. You increase your chances, and he gets sniped. And then Scroll decides, right, I'm going to leave. I'm going to let him respawn. And then Akira's hiding in a cone. So a very unfortunate way for second place to go down. They're trying to up the aggression. They're making a play for first, but didn't really win out.
But let's take a look and see how that's impacted the leaderboard. Demus and Dom continue to have a fantastic night. A whopping 30 eliminations to victory royales. They are definitely looking like the kings of the lobby right now. But let's see where Thomas and Focus have got to. They're in 10th. They've gone up just one place, unfortunately, after going down in an unfortunate situation. Although, we have to say, the high ground take, it probably wasn't the wisest mini-miner, given how early they tried to take it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It wasn't bad. It was just a little bit too early. I can see why they went for it, of course. You know, they're trying to take height. They're trying to move up in the standings. They're trying to recover their overall tournament. I mean, yeah, that's tough. I mean, there's not much you can do about that when it comes to the cube rifle. You know, you just got splat on the floor. Really difficult. Focus with this lovely shot, though, Reese. Really impressed with how he managed to solo clutch a few extra placement points for them. Although now they've really got to start turning it on. They've got a couple of games to go. They need to find those end games and find a little bit more consistency there.
Well, let's take a look at the second page of the leaderboard, if we can, to see where some of our notable names have got to. And as you can see, it's been a difficult night for the Gentlemates duo, Akira and Kurama. I know the commentators were really hoping for the best for them. Konbek and Seti, they haven't quite managed to match some of the other Polish duos in the lobby tonight. But if we actually rewind, if we can, back to page number 1, because I never miss an opportunity to talk about Podosai and Sato if I can. I'm not going to lie, guys. The eliminations, that ain't a sexy number, okay? 14 eliminations, no victory royales. But their average placement is 5.83 mini-miners. So again, not very sexy, but it could potentially see them through to the LAN finals.
It's working. That's all you need to do. Stay consistent. It's not easy in this game mode either, particularly looking at teams like Cammy and Hari. You can see that one wrong move, one mistake can cause them problems. So, you know, these last two games is not guaranteed for them yet, but they're playing so well so far.
And it's great to see a comeback story, Reese. You know, for Podosai after last year.
After, especially, exactly after last year. I was actually going to say about both those teams is like, there's not many highlights. You don't see much about Kamihari. You don't see much about Podosai Sato doing, just because they're so consistent over and over again. You're not seeing the crazy plays that you'll get out of Dharma Deemer, Sky and Scroll, Chino, Pablo, whatsoever. But they're the ones that are just climbing up the leaderboard.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens in the next two games. Let's head to game 7 with Taco and Takata.
We are definitely witnessing a lot of consistency, though, from Cammy and Hadi with just making it to those endgame moments, and that has been a massive difference maker for so many of these duos, Takata, because right now, it's looking like top 5 is the sweet spot for that EWC LAN qual, and all those duos inside of the top 10 are relatively within
Step right up.
Me voy a matar, este es mi último. Uy, uy.
Fearsome pirates out. Fearsome pirates out.
What you call junk, me call opportunity.
You are the Fortnite World Champion!